To our guest at Spencer, is it Raley or Raley? I'm not sure which one it is. Is it Raley or Raley?
It's Raley. Thanks for having me on today.
That's what I thought it was. Raley, Director of Research Fair, Washington. I guess you're in Washington, D.C.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. We're based in Washington, D.C. I'm actually recording from my home in Northern Virginia right now. We've got some big elections coming up.
Yes, you do. I mean, so far, here's a question, and since you're there, I have little trust in the election process, especially in the state of Virginia or in the District of Columbia for the most part. But what do you think? What's your view on the ground there? Do you think this is going to be it's a lot of mischief stuff going on there, or do you think we'll see a good election?
Well, I can't really speak to too much of that, just because I'm not very closely involved in that part of the election here.
Yeah.
I did find it interesting, here in Virginia, they really push voting by mail. Of course, we saw a lot of drama with that over the last election. I got a notification a couple of months ago saying, don't forget to send in your request to vote by mail. So they were really pushing that. But, beyond that, there are a lot of good people here that are auditing elections that are really proactive about looking for abnormalities. So I have high hopes that we can have a fair process play out. I know one thing, I expect this to be extremely close.
Yeah. That's what the polling is showing for the most part. And, of course, this early, just outside of really getting ramped up for the 2022 or the midterm elections, this thing carries a lot of importance in more ways than one. All right, let's switch attention to the immigration situation where you guys have got your ear to the ground on that one. Speaking of which, what do you know about this caravan? What is it made up of? Where are they? And what's the final destination like? We don't know, but go ahead. What's the update on this?
So what we're hearing now, this newest caravan that is made up of roughly 4,000 migrants, maybe more are joining it every day, coming from mostly Central and South America. These are individuals, from Honduras, and as far south as Venezuelan. We're seeing still a lot of Haitian migrants coming from places like Brazil and Chile, not directly from Haiti. These individuals have been living in South America with legal status there for quite some time and have decided to come to the United States. Interestingly, one point I found interesting about this is just almost how high-tech it is, how organized it is. In fact, you've got caravan organizers using those QR barcodes and scanning them on, their phones and stuff to organize migrants, to know who's there, and then to help people break through major checkpoints in Mexico and other countries. I think another important point here is that the Mexican government has offered temporary humanitarian visas to children and pregnant women who are traveling with the caravan. So, these are individuals who, if they are indeed fleeing a tough situation, they have an offer to stop somewhere safe, but they're not doing that. They're wanting to come to the United States. They're wanting to shop for, the best possible outcome that they could look for. And so instead of just finding a safe place like they're claiming they're looking for, they're wanting to come to the U.S.
I got to tell you, it must resonate. One of the things that you talked about is high tech, and we get this idea that these people are on some island or some desert crossing over with no technology, no support. But that's the only way the Haitians could get from where they were to where they are now. God knows, across this country, there was a lot of help and assistance that they had from day one. Was it not?
Oh, absolutely. And, looking back even to the border crisis that existed during the Trump administration in 2019, we saw a lot of organizations based in the United States, mass immigration advocates, that would create documents and send them to prospective illegal aliens saying, here's how to get through the asylum system. Here are the loopholes. Here's the best route to take. That's one of the reasons we saw the Trump administration implement the migrant protection protocols, which were very effective, because they essentially said, once you get to a safe country, you have to stop there until we can look at your asylum application. And once that loophole was closed, a lot of individuals knew they were filing fraudulent applications, so why even try at that point? So, it's extremely high-tech. These aren't individuals who are just, making their way north and hoping they get across the border. These are well-planned journeys, and they have help even from organizations in the United States.
So is it safe to say, Spencer, that we've got more technology being used before they cross the border than to find out where they are after they get here?
Well, I would say just from beginning to end, these are individuals that, they have smartphones like all of us have in the United States now. They can look at where they are at any point. They can get on Twitter or some sort of social media and see where the Border Patrol is working that day. That way, if they're trying to take advantage of the system, they can turn themselves in.
Amazing.
If they have a criminal record or something, they're trying to avoid Border Patrol, they know they're over here today, so we're going to try to enter at this other spot. And I think that's just kind of noted by the fact that we estimate that there were more than 400,000 gotaways this year, individuals that slipped past the detection of Border Patrol and got into the interior of the country. That's hard to do unless you know where Border Patrol is and you know how to evade them. So obviously these people are keeping tabs on things. They know what they're doing whenever they're making that illegal crossing into the country.
What does the new warnings that were issued over the weekend as far as Washington, D.C. and that area of Virginia from ISIS, what does that bring to the table? You would think it would be more importance to come to some kind of a solution at the border.
Well, right, absolutely, because you can't vet individuals coming across the border, and oftentimes we're seeing the Biden administration release people same day, after they're apprehended. That's not enough time to see if they have, a connection to a gang group, much less a terrorist group. Yeah. And we've seen reports from places like Panama where they've apprehended individuals from the Middle East who said they were making their way north, and we found out they were on terror watch lists. So it's not just, a trumped up, scary claim that people are trying to make in order to enforce the border. It's a legitimate threat. And so whether you're talking about the border or ensuring that we're vetting individuals coming from the Middle East via the refugee program, that's a very important aspect of this that we have to start taking seriously.
Did you watch any of the hearings from the Senate side on the Tucson Police Chief Chris Magnus last week? He's the nominee to lead the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency there. Did you watch any of that?
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about Magnus is it's kind of ironic because almost the entirety of his career up until this point has been about trying to, in a way, abolish ICE. Now he's being asked. He's been nominated to lead the very agency that he wants to totally handcuff to prevent agents from doing their job. And it's really just a ridiculous nomination. And I think it shows how unserious President Biden is about enforcing our immigration laws as they're written.
I think this guy, when you start looking at the failures that he's had all the way through his senatorial career as far as Biden is concerned, he continues that failure, putting the most inept people in positions of power as far as the cabinet is concerned. Here's a little bit of what happened last week with this guy who's a Tucson police chief, Chris Magnus.
You believe we have a crisis at the southern border, yes or no?
Senator, I'm not sure, does it really matter whether we call it
yes, it matters, because if you cannot define it as a crisis, then you shouldn't be in there.
Major challenge, a crisis, a big problem.
Do we have a crisis at the border, yes or no?
Senator, let me assure you that no one believes there is greater urgency to this matter than I do.
Are you saying there's not a crisis at the border?
Senator, I don't think I don't speak to urgent as less serious at all. In fact,
is there a crisis or is there not a crisis at the border?
Senator, I would say that my highest priority is going to...
I didn't ask your priority. I asked to characterize the situation on the border. Is there a crisis at the border?
What I'm certainly trying to convey is how serious I take what's happening at the border and the amount of work that I want to put into addressing it.
Unbelievable. Spencer, can you hang on for another segment, sir?
Absolutely.
Spencer Raley, who is the Director of Research at FAIR in Washington. We'll be back with more coming up next. All right, what's the estimate? Back with Spencer Raley, who's Director of Research for FAIR. Spencer, what's the arrival time of this group of 4,000? But you're right, it's going to be more than 4,000. It's almost like snowballs. They collect people along the way. But two questions. Number one, what is the arrival time supposed to be, possibly? And secondly, because of the technologies that's out there, and we are naive if we don't think that they hear things in the United States. They listen to the news. It's in their hands. And when they hear a $450,000 paycheck per child, I know I don't want to stay in Mexico. Let me go where the check is, closer to the border. Your thoughts on those two things?
Right. Well, first of all, just according to Border Patrol, unless something holds up this caravan, they're hoping to get to either the Yuma, Arizona, or Del Rio, Texas area, depending on which popular path they decide to take, within the next couple of weeks. So this is really going to heat up in the coming week or two. As for this utterly just unthinkable proposal by the Biden administration to give $450,000 per illegal alien, or $1 million or more per family, for those that were supposedly or were separated during the zero tolerance policy under Trump. That's just another green light for more illegal immigration. Yeah. That's the Biden administration saying, for coming to the United States, for violating our immigration laws, I'm going to try to get you an amnesty, and I just might cut you a check that's bigger than most Americans will ever see in their lives.
There's no chance of that happening. That has to have congressional approval, does it not?
There are different mechanisms that the executive branch can use for doing settlements through things like the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, DHS, or Health and Human Services that might be able to even skirt congressional approval. Now, what we need Congress to do, since they have the power of the purse, is essentially add some kind of rider or something, some sort of legislation to say, no, we're going to stop this. This has to stop. Yeah. But at this point, just with the power that our Congress has given the president, they can move forward with trying to do something like this. I think that's the real scary thing is the Biden administration, whether he has constitutional authority or not, has been taking unprecedented steps to reward illegal aliens for violating our laws to the tune of potentially making some families millionaires.
If we do have any kind of terrorist attack on American soil now, it's got to be over for them. I'm looking at some of the new polling data, and I think it was on Meet the Press yesterday. His numbers are just absolutely pathetic, and they're sinking. Even Cup of Joe was on the negative side.
If I were a Republican running, I would say Democrats can't protect us across the world, Democrats can't protect our street, and Democrats can't protect us at the border.
Wise words, and of course we always count on Mr. Kennedy.
I say this with respect, with all the respect I can muster. But my advice to the president is this. Mr. President, you've just got to try harder not to suck.
Man, if you're going to interview anybody in Washington, D.C., he's the guy.
President Biden is about as popular as a fever blister.
There you go. So, in finality here, what do we do? The only thing we can do is just work our butts off across this country to try to get good candidates and line up for the midterm. There's just not much else that we can do in the House and Senate.
Right, because right now, we're seeing, it doesn't seem like the Biden administration cares about polling or anything. I know they see it. We see Jen Psaki talk, people bring it up to her all the time, and it's interesting how she's either just ignoring it or blaming it on Trump or even trying to use this old tactic, we don't believe the polls. But they see it. They don't care. They care a lot more about these special interest groups that have their ear at the White House. But, what we are seeing in Congress is there are, members of Congress who don't want to lose their job. So they're continuing to take some of these things seriously. It's one of the reasons that we're seeing it so hard for this massive reconciliation bill to pass through Congress, through the infrastructure bill, because there are a lot of congressional members, moderate Democrats, and of course Republicans, who don't want to get on board with this because they know that the American people will hold them accountable. That's why you're seeing, if nothing else, they want to water this down. Of course, any kind of measure of this being passed would be kind of a loss for the American people, but at least we're seeing it tempered. And that's, I think, a credit to the American people making their voice known through polling and through calling their Congress members.
Spencer, that's why that the election tomorrow in Virginia for governors, McAuliffe and Youngkin, is such a bellwether for the midterms. Everybody's concentrating on that one. Always good having you, my man. Appreciate it very much. Thanks for spending some time with us. Spencer
Absolutely. Thanks for
Raley.
having me on.
You got it. Director of Research for FAIR, F-A-I-R, dealing with immigration and our watchdog.